Welcome to the Diablo Podcast. I am your host, Flux, and we are online at diablopodcast.com. Joining me on the show this week is Wolfpaq.
Hello.
He's a regular guest, and we have a brand new guest on his first podcast. It's Nico.
Hello, everyone.
First time on the show, Nico. And you are here because you hate real money trading and you think people who do it are evil and should be sent to the prison. Is that correct?
I think that sums it up. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, moving right along. Just 'cause it's your first show, what's your big interest in Diablo 3? You a big Diablo 2 fan and you just want more?
I am, in fact, and I fear for it because I'm afraid that the experience isn't going to be quite the same, which obviously it's not going to be no matter what. But I've played Diablo 2 since way back in the day. I started out Diablo 1. I was probably 10 years old when that game came out, and loved it from the first moment I started playing it. Played the heck out of Diablo 2. I actually was just playing again a couple weeks ago. I haven't been too active, but I've been playing consistently on and off since the game was released, and seeing all the stuff that's being implemented in Diablo 3 has me a little bit worried, to put it lightly. Yeah.
Good segue. One of those things being the real money trading and the auction house. Yeah, and that's what this show is about. We recorded a version of this last week, and unfortunately I had a computer death and a power supply death and a hard drive wiped out. And that one starred Wolfpaq and another guest, Derek, who was not available to re-record this because he says he's lost interest in debating it because he thinks it's going to be in the game and nothing can stop it. In other words, Wolfpaq won the debate. So hopefully, hopefully this is not the first and last time we will hear from Nico. But we're discussing the ethical ramifications of the system, and then largely just going to get into a top discussion of how it's going to work in the game and what we like and don't like about it, etc. So right off the bat, moral issues of real money trading in the auction house. Some people feel it's cheating, it's just wrong. You should only use items you find yourself. You shouldn't be able to buy stuff. As the saying goes, pay for win. We'll give you first shot on this, Nico. At some point I'll know your name here. What do you agree with those, Aubrey? Which arguments of those appeal to you, and why do you think that's an issue with the real money trading in the auction house?
I think to an extent that is an issue. Obviously, to different individuals, everybody has a different opinion on it, and you're not going to be able to please everyone. But I don't think I'm no complete austere thinking that you can only use items that you found yourself. Obviously, trading, as Blizzard has expressed, they want to be a central theme to this game. I think they might have said at one point it's going to be the most important aspect of the game. I take issue with the way that they went about it, and I don't think that one should be able to this easily to have this access to just take money that they've earned in real life, whether they've earned it or not, children who take their parents' money or whatever, and buy not only the best items, but the best characters available in the game without actually playing the game.
Would you have objections to the auction house in of itself, or it's just the real money aspect of things you think is corrupting?
No, I don't take any issue with the auction house. I think it's probably the best format that they could implement to facilitate trading between a vast amount of players in this type of game. I think it's a great move. I just don't like the real money aspect.
And for the counterpoint, Wolfpaq, are you in this purely because you think Bobby Kotick needs a new solid gold bathtub in his guest house, or do you feel there are actual benefits for game players as well with the real money trading?
I absolutely think that real life players will benefit from being able to buy buy items with real life money. Mostly because Diablo, the item find is generally a result of how much time you spend playing the game, right? The more you play, the better items you'll get, and not everyone can play the game as much as other people can, and this is sort of a way of evening the playing field so that people other than 15-year-olds or however old people are who are spending 15 hours a day playing will be able to get some of the top stuff, or have a chance to get it at least.
The current system in Diablo 2 is not really comparable to Diablo 3 for a number of reasons we'll get into. I mean, obviously there's duping and there's lots of bot use, and it's a 10-year-old game for one thing, without really any customer service or support in terms of deleting, cheating, stopping banned items, etc. As Blizzard has pointed out in their arguments for this, you can buy items now for Diablo 2, and even for World of Warcraft, as much as they try to stop it, there's tons of gold farming and character farming and such. So, Nico, Blizzard's argument is that it happens anyway, and they're just enabling it and stopping people from getting ripped off by third-party sites, etc.
Right.
And obviously they can make a little bit of money on the side and perhaps use that money to pay for better customer support and more patches and more ongoing. I mean, we see Diablo 2 has basically been abandoned for, years.
Yeah.
And obviously, if Diablo 3 has some sort
assumption.
of continuing income, is that going to help?
I don't know that it is, honestly. They seem to really be downplaying the income aspect of it from their point of view, like, saying, this is going to be really fun for players. Oh yeah, we'll make a little bit of money on the side. We've seen that in a lot of their interviews and PR bits that they've put out, but honestly, I think that the income is the driving aspect of this. Obviously, they don't want to repeat what happened with D2, where they are saddled with the cost of running these servers for years or decades down the line, and there's nothing coming in to pay for it when they're only releasing a game every 10 years or so. So What we're hearing from them versus what is actually motivating them is not one and the same. I think there's a discrepancy there, and they're being pretty disingenuous about what their motivations are for this. Sure, some players will probably like this, but obviously a lot of players are opposed to it as well. And in the same breath, they cut down the argument of saying, well, just because you say you don't like it doesn't mean we're not going to do it. But then also one of their arguments for why they're implementing it is saying players were asking for this. I don't know about anyone else, but I have not seen a huge glut of people on the official forums or anywhere else saying before August 1st, when the news came out, that they really wanted a safer way to buy items with real money. I don't think there was a huge clamor for that.
Taking on that point, Wolfpaq, is Blizzard has obviously done all they can to stop this. I mean, they say they stop it in Diablo 2. They actually do all they can to stop it in World of Warcraft. So what makes Diablo 3 different that it's okay to sell stuff for real money when they're banning it and are trying to in their other games?
Well, I think that's a little bit of a misnomer, because Blizzard doesn't have a real money auction house in World of Warcraft or in Diablo 2. So they've never specifically said you cannot buy items through our service in the game. They've only said you can't buy money from third-party sites, which is a legitimate thing to make illegal, because so many third-party sites are going to create customer service nightmares for them. So they have a legitimate reason to say don't buy from third-party sites.
So it's legal if they say it's legal.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's their game, right?
I've listened to a lot of debates about atheism and ethics and such, and that's one of the older debates in the form of, if it is something right because God says it's right, or is something right and then that it's right and also God says it's right? Can a deity proclaim something to be just? Because of course we all worship Blizzard as a god, as we rightly should.
Of course.
And they've said this is illegal all throughout and should not be permitted, and now they're saying it is okay if you do it through us, and then that means it's okay.
Yeah. I mean the reasons, right? If there are reasons for making it illegal in the first place are to avoid customer service nightmares, and now they've created a way that people can spend their real life money to gain gear and avoid the customer service nightmare. I mean, there's no reason for it not to be legal.
I disagree on that.
Counterpoint there, Nico?
I mean, it's just such a massive reversal of their policy, and if you look at their rhetoric for how they tried to guard against this in the past, it was to create a fair, equitable game space where it's just a game, everyone's on even turf, and yeah, there was cheating. There were people who would, buy from third-party sites in the past, and I think we're going to see that continue. It's just going to be through the medium of Blizzard's in-game auction house, and it's not actually going to be a fair game. It's just going to be the same people who were previously conducting these illegal operations now legally under the hood of Blizzard's system.
Sure, but I mean, again, like if you take a game like World of Warcraft, they have like hard limits in place with how fast you can get gear with the reset rate of instances, versus Diablo is extremely a linear function of the more you play, the more gold you'll get, the more better gear you'll get, and it's not a fair game at all. I mean, it's not fair, right? The people who are able to play more are going to be able to have more, and the people who can't play more are going to have less. And that, I mean, you say that's fair. I don't think that is fair, because someone who's taking care, because in the current system, someone who's got a family, got a full-time job, maybe they work 50 hours a week, they're not going to have enough time to get the top items in the game. But if they can buy a top item for $5-10, then there's a chance for them to get something that they would otherwise never be able to get.
I agree. I mean, that's definitely the case, and I'm kind of in a similar position myself. You know, I work a full-time job and probably won't be able to devote as much time to the game as I did when I was a kid in high school. But I still, for me personally, I definitely not going to use it. I still find something morally reprehensible about it. For me personally, it's just a sick feeling when I think about actually buying an in-game item, putting down $20 just to, you know, do 10 more damage or whatever.
Yeah.
What about selling an in-game item? What if you find 2 super fantastic wind forces and you know it's going for $50 on the RMT and you can't use them both?
That's right. And I mean, that's actually one of my biggest objections for me personally, and this is just how I feel, and I know some other people will probably share this sentiment, but it takes what would be a completely in-game decision, like, do I want to use this upgrade? Do I want to trade off this item that will give me 20 more attack and I'll lose, 10 armor, just for example, whatever, arbitrary numbers. It takes that, and now you have this third element where you're considering, well, if it's a really good item, do I want to sell it on the auction house because it has this real money value, which is I can go and find out exactly what it is, and now I have to weigh that against the other choices I'm making, and that turns what is normally, a pretty fun process and is just playing a game into something that, to me, I think is just tawdry and kind of perverse.
It's one thing for him to disagree with it, but I mean, we all disagree with various things about the game. I don't think that means that the decision should be made to include it or include it just because some people have a problem with it.
But as he says, this is kind of breaking the mode. You're in this fantasy game, you're in a fantasy world, you're on a fantasy server of Battle.net. Okay, I've fantasied enough here. But, you can kind of, it's sort of a pure experience in some ways. It's what you do in the game gives you rewards in the game, and it's kind of a self-contained ecosystem. And now they're bringing in this whole external stimulus of real money, and it's going to affect it in every way. And a lot of people just don't want that to kind of, this is one, like Diablo 3 is a place they can kind of escape from all of the, the crassness and the commerciality and the mercantile nature of the real world. And now that's being, squashed into the game, like it or not.
Well, I mean, they still can, right? I mean, the real auction house is a choice. If you, like Nico said, if he doesn't want to use it, he'll never use it. It'll not affect him at all. And if he wants to play hardcore, then it won't affect the people he's playing with at all either. So as long as it's an optional choice, I think it's fine.
But is it optional? There are no RMT servers, and hardcore. It seems a pretty true. Except that, well, okay, that's another issue. We'll get into hardcore in a minute. But the other thing with the RMT is that since it's going to exist, or at least we all expect, that the highest quality items are only going to be sold for actual gold. I mean, for actual. I'm taking after you now, Wolfpaq. For actual money. So Blizzard, Bobby Bucks, as we're calling them.
Yes.
Right. We haven't made the icon yet. I've been trying to get Rush to make that. It's going to be a little red Bobby face, like in $1 million bill, with little horns and glowing eyes and stuff. Nice. I can't wait. Best thing ever. It's just Photoshop challenge for the weekend. But if that exists, it's not going to be possible to trade for the top items with in-game resources. You will have to use real money if you want to trade for any of these items. Or else if you're selling it for gold, you'll be getting wildly undervalued. You'll be getting gold that you can't use to get a similar item of that quality, because only people will be selling them for real money. So does that take out the optional aspect, Wolfpaq?
Well, I mean, that's an assumption. It may be the case, or it may be the case that there's a lot of people like Nico who decide, you know what, I don't want to use it either. And so when they find that awesome top-of-the-line item, they're going to post it on the gold auction house. And we don't know. I don't think we'll only be able to get the top items on the real life or real money auction house as an argument until we see that that's the case, because as far as it sounds like there's a lot of people opposed to this. I'm guessing those people won't be selling their items on the real money auction house.
People are also opposed to getting ripped off, though. It's not getting fair value on their trades. And if you're putting it up for gold and you can actually spend money on gold, it will be obvious what you're selling it for in terms of real money values, either by similar items that are selling for that or by how much it costs to buy that much gold. So do you feel, Nico, this is going to kind of involve you if you like it or not?
I definitely think it's going to have an impact. I think that, obviously, like Wolfpaq said, we're not going to know exactly how the economy is going to pan out, but we can postulate. And I think that the real money is going to be the driving force, and the people who are going to drive the real money economy and ultimately the entire economy for everyone else who plays the game, vice hardcore, obviously, is going to be the same people who are cheating Diablo 2 right now, running bots, duping. We don't know how much they'll be able to prevent that, but we know it's going to happen. Even if it's just farming from slave labor in a third world country, it's going to happen, and the average player isn't really going to compete with that. So it almost sort of pigeonholes you into buying into the real money aspect if you want to get involved in, like you said, trading the best, highest level items, because that's what everyone's going to want.
Another topic with the gold farming and such is it seems like it's going to encourage tons of botting and tons of item finding, because now there's a very easy way to sell items for gold. Or it may not, because as we know now, these items are sold, but it's on a black market, and black markets increase prices dramatically. People have speculated what World of Warcraft gold would sell for if it was allowed in the game, and most people think it'd be a fraction of what it actually sells for now. Just because, it's like, what's a pack of cigarettes cost versus what's it cost to go buy some marijuana from a dealer on the corner,
Mm-hmm.
It's not a more expensive item, it's just more expensive because it's illegal and only certain people sell it and it's dangerous, etc. So we don't really know. It may actually end up in decreasing all the prices greatly. But it does seem like it will have a big effect on the economy just because there will be many, many, many more items easily available for trade, and it seems like that will drive down prices, and people will be able to outfit their characters with better gear much more easily than you could in Diablo 2. You don't have to find stuff yourself anymore. Is that also a drawback for you, Nico?
We'll have to see how it pans out, but yeah, like you said, with most of these items not leaving the economy, everything's just going to deflate over time, and only the best items will still be traded for real money, and then the excess, if you will, from all these bots and whatnot will probably get dumped onto the gold auction house eventually to work its way there, and the price will be affordable probably for everyone. Not sure if I'm in favor of that or not. I'd kind of like to see one standard be the economy, have gold as the standard currency, like how they had previously stated they wanted it to work out.
So do you agree with the likelihood of that, Wolfpaq, and do you think it's good or bad?
Well, you guys kind of talked for a long time, so I'm just going to touch on one issue. I don't think you can make the case that the real money auction house is going to cause more farming. I think that, say everyone gets their wish who is against it and they decide not to implement it, I think that people are going to farm like crazy, just like they farmed like crazy in Diablo 2, because they're going to make third-party websites to market off these items. So I don't see any legitimacy in the argument that people are going to farm more or people are going to get some more slave labor. Because, people already have, 20 people in houses in China farming Diju, or they did back when it was in its heyday. Although, because it's the other choice they made, which was to make it client server architected, hopefully they'll be able to cut down on the dupes in a major way.
Dupes will probably not be as big of an issue, but I think farming is going to be just as prevalent as ever, and botting especially. It's getting more sophisticated all the time. If you look at World of Warcraft, I haven't played in the most recent expansion. I played it on and off past few years, but it's very prevalent from what I understand now. I have some real life friends who told me, whatever, I was running my bot the other day in World of Warcraft. I was like, oh, really? You do that? Cheater? Yeah, so it's going to happen, and I think it's going to just overrun the economy, and I don't see it being really an impact in a game like D2, because the economy was sort of separate from the game, right? Like, you would conduct your trading on forums with people who you knew were actually people, and they were actually players of the game, whereas if you just have this nameless anonymous auction house, all of those previously illegal markets are just going to flood that, and they're going to be calling all of the shots, whereas in the past you'd have to go seek that out if you wanted to actually buy those items. And so, I don't think that illegal item farming or duping and selling really affects my D2 play. And if there wasn't a real money auction house, I don't think it would affect D3 as much, if at all.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That was your rebuttal?
No, I just don't think that they're going to be calling the shots as much in D3 as they were in D2, because in D3, everyone is going to have a chance to post their items for real money. They've said a couple times that there's you get a free 5-10 posts a week because every single person that plays the game has a chance to post something for real money, that means that prices will go down compared to D2, where it actually was the third-party people calling all of the shots because they were the ones doing the farming, and it was against the terms of service to try to sell things for real money. So the people who believed in following the terms of service weren't doing it. Since supply is going to go up, I think the demand will be the same. Everyone wants great items. So yeah, I actually think people will get a bigger say in what they do with their or in how much items cost on the real money market.
It's interesting to tie in the D2 aspect because, as we've pointed out, as everyone's aware, trading in D2 is not really supported. I mean, you can go into a channel and spam, but there's bots in there spamming, and I think a lot of people don't trade stuff in D2 just because it's a pain in the ass to trade stuff in D2. Mm-hmm. And it's entirely possible that some people are buying things on third-party sites for actual money just because it's so hard to find someone to trade item X or item Y with in the game itself. And it may be possible, can you guys envision if there was an auction house in Diablo 2? Obviously the top rune words and top runes and such would still be really expensive, and maybe there'd even be an RMT aspect of it. But it would just enable such easier trading and such easier movement of items that people would probably not have to go buy things to some extent because you could actually find what you wanted in a game.
I agree. Honestly, I would like to see them implement the gold auction house first. Maybe not ship this with launch, pull a StarCraft 2 BattleNet chat channels type situation, and see how it works out before implementing the real money aspect. Because maybe you would find that it's not all that necessary.
I'm definitely going to be farming like crazy, whether or not there's a real money auction house, because that's the whole draw and appeal of Diablo for me, is being able to farm and get cool items. I don't care about having to make the choice for selling it on the real money auction house or keeping it for my character, I'll make that choice when I get the items,
And one of the issues with the Diablo 2 trading, there's a big thread in our main Diablo 3 community forum right now where someone asserted that the vast majority of items available for trade in Diablo 2 are duped. Yeah. And that seems likely to me, given the number of high-level runes that pop up so quickly after every time they reset the economy. But as other people have pointed out, some of these sites have, they guarantee the items are not duped. They say they will not vanish when you leave the game. And if you ever look on BattleNet now, it's you'll see 20 games and 19 of them are 8 bots basically playing in the same game. There's just fantastic, incredible amounts of botting and people using automation to farm items 24 hours a day because Blizzard really doesn't make any effort to stop this in Diablo 2. But in theory, in Diablo 3, they're not allowing any modding. There's no UI interface possibility. They're going to have active customer support. And I would assume, we haven't read the terms of service, obviously, or the ULA yet, but it seems like they're going to probably try to stop people from running automated services and bots. And you're not going to have one character in the game killing stuff and 3 bots running along behind him picking up their items. At least they're going to try to stop that. Who knows if they can, but it does seem that it will make some difference in the Diablo 3 market. We can't just say it's going to be like Diablo 2, but with cash attached to it, because hopefully Blizzard's going to be making steps to stop these things, and they're going to be making the way you find the best items isn't going to Pindleskin 10,000 times a day. You're actually going to have to do some content. It's not going to be as easy, and it's not going to be as bot friendly. Do you guys think that A, there will be less botting and such, and B, what difference will that make?
I think there will be less botting. I think it's going to be a drastic byproduct of the client server architecture. There's just no way that people without access to the full game are going to be able to figure out what exactly to do to bot as quickly. Some people will figure it out and they will bot, but I think they will have a much better chance of getting caught since they have to be online for all of their development and testing. There could be private servers, but I don't know if private servers are going to be as efficient as they are, or they may just be like WoW, right, where private servers are kind of crappy. There's a lot of stuff not working, so it probably isn't the best environment to be testing your bot. So I think it'll be much easier to catch them, in addition to be more difficult to create bots in general.
Yeah, it could be. I think given time, though, that the underhanded other side of the invisible hand will find a way, and all the people who make the bots and the hacks and the private servers and whatever, they will triumph, so to speak. They will get the full range of capabilities that they want to carry out their botting operations. And if you use like WoW as a point of comparison, like kind of like I mentioned earlier, botting is still pretty prevalent on there. Obviously, it's an MMO. It's always online. Client-server architecture, it's pretty much going to be the same as what we're expecting with Diablo 3 for these purposes. And yeah, botting is still pretty rampant. It's not as big of a problem there because in-game gold doesn't really matter that much in WoW compared to, a game like Diablo. I think if you look at the amount that they've been able to do to stop it in WoW, where everybody's paying a $15 a month subscription fee, versus a game like Diablo where they're just getting, little pennies out of the take a penny, leave a penny jar from the auction house, I don't think that they're really going to be able to do much to stop it.
Yeah, Bobby doesn't leave pennies. Bobby only takes pennies, by the way.
Yeah, right. Of course.
So,
let's take a penny jar.
Tying into the always online thing, is this, the always online, you have to play Diablo 3, as you guys were just saying. It's a client server. You can't play it offline. There's no single player mode. You're on Battle.net playing with other people or by yourself, but you have to connect to the service. Is this evil because it's forcing everybody into the same economy and forcing us to all use the RMT auction house and not giving players a choice of no RMT servers? Nico, I'm guessing you're going to say yes.
Yes. That's all. No. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think there's a connection. If you look at how they're trying to impress upon us the social aspects, and the always online is part of that, obviously. They present it as something that is purely fun for players, and for many players it is. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with being online, although many people do, and that's legitimate concern for them. Blizzard hates our troops, right?
Yes.
No. But I think they all tie in. If you look at the always online aspect, the way that they're kind of shifting customization towards items, and their only source of monetization from the game that we know of so far is going to be from items being traded. I think there's a connection. Probably. I don't know, though. No one knows for sure except for the people calling the shots at Blizzard HQ, and they're obviously not going to tell us straight up. So,
anything on that, Wolfpaq, or should we move on?
We can move on. I'm not sure. I'm not a conspiracy theorist either.
No, well, how have you guys stayed on this podcast this long and not picked up conspiracy theorists? It's one of my favorite things. One of the things that's been a big discussion of is gold sinks. Are there going to be enough gold sinks? Can they manage a functional economy? Obviously, gold is not a valuable resource in Diablo 2. Most people leave it on the ground. It's that yellow stuff that gets in the way of finding items, basically. And, they have maintained, their analogy is always that they have maintained a viable gold economy in World of Warcraft, for better or for worse, not perfectly, but gold does have a use and a value and a requirement. Do you guys think they'll pull that off in Diablo 3?
Yes. I absolutely think they can, and I think they will. There's a lot of things they're planning to do in Diablo 3 that they can make it require money, and they can. I think the biggest problem for money in Diablo 2 wasn't that there was no use for it, but more that there weren't enough. It was too easy to acquire, and I think they can really lock down on how easy it is to acquire gold in Diablo 3, and that will ensure that it does have a value and maintain its usability, basically.
I don't know. It remains to be seen.
Yes, it does, but that's where you make your wild projections.
Right, of course.
Please stop allowing objective reality to slow your opinions.
Right. I'm trying to preface everything I say with, a bit of plausible deniability.
I'm going to edit all that out anyway, so you'll sound like a ranting lunatic, so don't worry about it.
Thank you. But I don't know. We haven't seen much in the way of how they're actually going to implement these gold sinks. You don't even lose gold when you die, from what we've heard. There's just a slight durability reduction, which is we were all assuming is going to be piddly in terms of what it costs. But I do know that with the fact that they're allowing money to be traded freely between Bobby Bucks, as it were, and gold on the auction house, every gold piece in the game, even though it's going to be a tiny fraction of whatever many millionths of a penny, is going to have a value in real money. So I don't want it to come to a point where, say, I'm leveling my next alt, and I don't know, like leveling up that alt's artisans costs X amount of gold, say 5 million gold, and I know that the real market value of that is $5. Like, I don't want to have to make that trade-off between, well, do I want more stash space for this character by expanding it, and paying this flat gold fee, or could I take that gold and go post it in the auction house and have $5? I realize that it's not the most appropriate analogy, because I could have, if there was just a gold auction house, that's 5 million gold that I could have traded for the best item in the game. Just something about the real money thing just takes it to a completely different level, I think. I don't know. I can't put it into words.
Good thing you're on the podcast.
Right.
We discussed the economy a little more on the recording last week, and I don't really want to go through all that again. I think it was a lot of speculation, but I am not as sanguine about the possibilities of gold retaining its value. I just think that with all the farming people are going to do, they're just going to find so much gold that it's going to become next to worthless. And maybe Blizzard will have to react to that by increasing the prices of everything, of all the gold sinks. All your crafting will double in price or something, or it'll cost more gold to list things on the auction house or something. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But I'm less confident of that happening. But obviously, we're purely speculating on it. And maybe I'm just blinded by the valueless of the shiny stuff in D2. Are either of you guys planning on playing hardcore?
Probably not.
I think I will. Some, not exclusively. But yeah.
Is that decision driven somewhat by the no RMT element of hardcore?
It's a motivating factor, just like I think the RMT is for Blizzard. It's one thing to consider. I don't think I'll be able to get all my friends. Like my wife plays and her sister will probably play. I don't think they're going to want to play hardcore because they're not as hardcore, quote unquote, about the game. But
so as we know, there is no RMT in hardcore. Blizzard basically, they haven't really explained it very much, other than to say that it's to save us from ourselves. They don't want you to spend $1,000 on gear and then die and lose it all. And maybe they're concerned about legal issues of being sued for their enabling you to buy something you lose. Because let's say there's a realm downage and your character dies because of the hardware failure on their end. Can you sue them for the money that the items were worth because they enabled you to sell them or something? That's a whole other issue, though. What is going to happen with the high-end economy of hardcore? If item X is selling for $80 in softcore, and you're in hardcore, you have item X, are you feeling it's crazy to sell this for gold? Do you think it's going to just result in third-party sites selling hardcore items for actual cash money, like we see in Diablo 2 now?
Oh, absolutely. There will definitely be a third-party market because there's not one built into the game, and some people don't care that it's against the terms of service. They're going to pay. They're going to want an item, and they're going to pay for it.
Yeah, probably so. I can honestly see it degenerating into a D2 style economy too, where it's just driven by something small and portable, like whatever the highest rank best runes will be, or gems. Sure. Yeah. I mean,
I agree with you guys. I think there's going to be third-party sites, much like there are now, selling just hardcore items for gold, for cash. No one can seem to keep this word straight in our heads, can we? It's a whole new paradigm, and we can't adapt to it yet. But yeah, it just seems obvious. If wind forces are selling for $60 in softcore, then in hardcore, people are going to want $60 for their wind force. I mean, to some extent, or people are going to be willing to pay $60 for a wind force. And if Blizzard doesn't enable this, they'll just go to someone who does. That does seem to contradict Blizzard's whole argument. We're enabling this because otherwise you'll use third-party sites. Well, that's what's going to happen with hardcore, right?
They're just going to say, well, don't play hardcore. If you want to buy an advantage in the game, you have the option to play softcore. And I think that's going to be their textbook response. So.
I find that unsatisfying. Wolfpaq?
I think that the possibility of legal action overrules their desire to prevent third-party sites from selling their goods, because I can easily see the case where someone pays $30 for their awesome helmet and then hops in, lags out, servers go down, something crazy happens and they die, and then they had their awesome item for 10 minutes like that. And like you said, saving us from ourselves, like some people will use it if it's there, and then that's just horrible to have a moment's lag or get distracted, or you get outplayed by Diablo's minions and you lose something you just spent $30 on. That's just, I can see why they wouldn't want that ever to be a possibility.
Remember The Simpsons when there's a power outage on the TV station and they show a funny image like a little puppy knocking over the power cord, that kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah.
It'll be that, but with a little Bobby Kotick troll face, Ha ha.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
server crash.
So as you guys mentioned, the hardcore economy, it doesn't seem likely that there will be gold trading at the highest end of it. You won't, the amount of gold it would require would not be of anything you could do anything. It wouldn't, if it was gold, you wouldn't be gold in terms of I'm going to use this in the game for crafting. It would be, this is, a million gold that's only of use to buy another top item that costs a million gold. You wouldn't say, okay, a million gold, I can make, 9,000 gloves with my artisan. God damn it. When are you guys supposed to correct me on that first? You're supposed to jump in there. It's one of our running comedy features.
I think you might be wrong. I think that with the crafting system the way it is, and with them talking about wanting half your endgame items to be crafted, I think that people will be spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of gold on not just the crafting cost, but all the materials. Unless you're going to go farm those yourself. I think that there's going to be some super rare, super cool set items, or not set items. I don't think you craft endgame set items, but craftable items that you're just going to want to get that 1 in a million perfect attack, perfect precision, perfect spell damage, for your sorceress or wizard or whatever it is you want to make. So I think the artisans are going to be a huge money sink and item sink for salvaging.
I would like to see that be the default setting for the game. Like, why not be able to do that in softcore and have it feel legitimate? Like you were actually doing the same thing that anyone else could do in the game.
I envision a world where gold is not that hard to get in the game, and that if you you'd rather trade for gems or runes or a huge stack of materials. I mean, if you're going to do a bunch of crafting, the bottleneck, the choke point seems to be in the higher, rarer materials, not in the gold.
Yeah, well, this is sort of a tangent. It's a relation to D2. When I last played on the ladder at the beginning of this year, I met at least 2 people who would give you a pull rune, which is it's a medium rune, but it's a pretty high up there, for 20 of any combination of the perfect gems, the low level runes, or the items that you use for crafting. So, and in Diablo 2, crafting was like an afterthought. There's only, of the, I don't know, are there 16, 20 recipes? There's only 1 or 2 that are worth doing, but people were farming that like crazy. And I imagine in Diablo 3 it'll just be even much more so, since it'll be fully supported and fully integrated with crafting mats and whatnot.
Yeah, it sounds like there's too many unknowns for us to pontificate wisely yet, which is, of course, entirely unacceptable.
No, it's a good point. No, I mean, I can see that definitely being the case. I'm kind of looking forward to that aspect of it, actually. I think that's where a lot of the randomness is going to come from in the game, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, rares in Diablo 2 were an awesome, awesome item, but it was so difficult to find one that was actually great for you, but...
Right.
In Diablo 3, half the mods are already set, and you can attempt it as many times as you want, as many times as you have materials and gold for. So yeah, I think crafts are going to be a huge hit. I hope.
Yeah.
And a big gold sink.
They don't short out on the number and variety of recipes that they make available. Yeah. That's something that they could easily add more in future, minor content updates that I would like to see them do.
I agree, and I'm hoping that they actually stick to the extremely rare recipe thing with incredibly awesome set mods on it. That would be very awesome.
Which leads to a related topic. Each new patch and expansion is going to add more high-end stuff. They basically said one of the reasons we don't need item binding is because the best items are not going to be the best items for long or forever. And how do you think people are going to take that when you connect that to the real money trading, Is people just going to stop buying things the month before an expansion comes out because they know that everything at the top is going to no longer be very useful? Or are our prices going to drop, or will people just keep buying it and hoping for the best? More speculation.
I think prices will drop. I think people will stop buying. I was dabbling around in an MMO recently that had its max level increased. Oh yeah, bless you. Yeah, but as I was saying, the economy, when the max level went up, all the prices dropped and bottomed out. People were having trouble selling all their stuff that was useful at level cap, because once the level cap goes up, it's not premier goods anymore. I don't think people will stop buying entirely. You might say, oh, I can finally afford this staff of awesomeness because it dropped to a price range that I can afford, but Yeah, I think it's going to mess with the economy for sure, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's going to be fun to see and watch and be a part of.
Staff of awesomeness.
Yes.
That's what your wife calls it, right?
Absolutely.
So does Blizzard have a responsibility to let people know when a patch is coming? I mean, if they're going to put up a new patch and it's going to have, one higher level of every item in the patch, or a whole bunch of new recipes that your artisan, artisan. No. Do they have a responsibility to let people know about that? I mean, if they just spring it on us in the middle of the night and suddenly the top items are worth 50% less, if someone paid real gold for that the day before, they're going to be unhappy. Of course, you're unhappy with people paying real gold at all, Nico, but what do you think about that possibility?
True, and I think that's kind of what's going to happen, and I agree. It's just part of an economy. I played WoW, like I mentioned earlier, on and off, and I saw that same thing happen when new patches were coming out. No one was really as eager to buy, and people would hedge their bets, wait and see, is this stuff going to be worth something? Or when advanced word would get out, which I'm sure it will, I'm sure we're going to have some idea, at least a month down the road, of when a patch is going to come, probably, and more or less what the content's going to be. People knew there was a big change to one of the specific crafts in WoW. They'd immediately start farming the mats that craft used and flooding the auction house with them, and the prices would get jacked up and other stuff would go down. And yeah, I mean, that's just part of an economy, and that's part of the fun of it, right? For a lot of people, gaming the system and making the most you can out of it. Not really any difference whether it's going to be with real money or gold, honestly. I won't participate in the gold part because, as I've made clear, I object. But
the real money part.
Oh yeah, sorry. Did I do it?
Yes, all three of us have done about 3 times now. Speaking of Bobby Bucks, as we're calling them, when you sell items, you don't write a check and mail it to Blizzard. We're going to have to go through some sort of system, PayPal or something like that. And that converts things into this, these kind of Bobby Bucks, as we're calling them. It's Blizzard money. And you can spend those on items in the game, or you can spend them on other Blizzard merch, or buy other Blizzard games, etc. Or you can cash them out, and Blizzard takes a cut of that. And there's been some complaints that they're taking a cut 3 times. They take money for the item listing, and money for out of the sale, and then a percentage off of whatever you cash out eventually, which seems a little ethically iffy to some people. But I'm sure Bobby's house staff is happy. They'll be getting a nice bonus this Christmas.
Yeah, they're supplying an optional service, and they're gonna charge you. I don't have any problems with that at all.
You're such a facilitator, Wolfpaq.
I'm just saying that it's.
Well, Uncle Bobby likes it. It must be good, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just if you're choosing to use the service, recognize there's going to be a cost associated with it. Just like in World of Warcraft, if you want to transfer servers, you can. It's just going to cost $25. So make sure it's something you really want to do before you go ahead and make that decision.
I think it's kind of silly. They came out right out of the gate and they said, we are not a bank. That was what one of the blue posts said. But
they are a bank.
Exactly. I mean, you can freely, just through putting items on the auction house, completely game the system and turn your account of Bobby Bucks, however many hundreds of dollars you have in there. You can just buy crap items or buy other people's items, relist them on the real money auction house, and take that money and funnel into your PayPal account or whatever the third party is going to be. Excuse me. And obviously there are going to be more charges associated with that. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, obviously there need to be the infrastructure in place to do that, so they're going to get their money out of it. But it just seems kind of trite and silly that it would be that easy to move your money around freely while using the system, but not actually for its intended purpose, because you aren't just playing the game and listing items or buying items to enhance the power of your characters. You're just shifting money around.
And on a related issue, what happens if this doesn't take off? We're all kind of assuming that it will. I think everyone's assuming this is going to be a big success. But what if they don't have enough real money trades? What if they aren't making... Obviously, they have some kind of projections on their revenue from this and how they're going to afford the customer service staff to support it. And, the new solid gold sink fixtures for Bobby's guest mansion, of course. But so what happens if it doesn't take off? I mean, do you think that's just totally it's unreasonable to even speculate on that? Or, they're obviously planning on making X amount of money to support this system and service. And if they don't make that, what do they do?
I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that they just take it out of the game. if not enough people are using it to cover whatever their costs are, and we don't know what their costs are going to be, if they're going to be charged a fee to interact with whatever financial services they end up deciding to interact with. Obviously, they're going to want to cover that, but if they're not, I think they could take it out.
Yeah, I would hope that that's still on the table. I think obviously the time has passed where when this was first announced, we kind of thought that if there was a big enough of a community pushback, we might have seen like a Real ID retraction where they just said, okay, well, whatever, this isn't going to fly. So it's going to make it in the game at this point. That's obvious.
Yeah, they weren't getting paid by Real ID though, so that may be a contributing factor.
Yeah, I mean they have a clear motivation for this, and yeah, I mean if they're not seeing the returns that they expect, which is funny to me, like we saw at the conference call earlier this month when you mentioned when they brought up the question of the Real Money Auction House and what that might mean to their investors, they didn't really have an answer. I was really surprised by that. I didn't even know what to make of that. I thought that they would have much firmer projections, and I don't know if they were just not being as forthwith as they could have with that, either because they wanted to withhold it because of the fan reaction or what. I don't know what the case is, but I was surprised by that. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, as I recall, someone asked, in the question and answer at the end of the conference call, someone asked Mike Morhaime, what is your plans? And he was just like, I don't know. And it sounded like he hadn't even considered the option, right? As you just said, Nico.
Obviously, money is a strong motivating factor behind this. They wanted to find some way to monetize the game for their own purposes, and some people might argue that it's the Activision Blizzard Bobby's philosophy kind of impressing upon them. Nobody's saying that Bobby is going into Blizzard HQ and saying, "Hey, let's put this in this game, let's do that,and making all these personal decisions.
Nobody's saying that?
Nobody should be saying that, because that's a little crazy.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's obviously they have a financial motivation behind it, but they're business. Their job is not to produce games that we love. Their job is to produce revenue for their stakeholders, and it just so happens that they produce revenue by making games that we love. So that's awesome. Right. But I don't think that a couple fees on the Real Money Auction House is really the sign of an evil company, out to take care of the little man. I mean, this is really, when you get outside of the whole, they're an evil company trying to rip us off mentality, this is a pretty revolutionary change. I don't know if I've ever heard of a game where you can sell money or sell items to other people for real life money within the game's infrastructure. I
don't have a problem with them pulling a profit. They need to, and like I said, D2, they couldn't have foreseen how long that they would be supporting that game even just by running power to the servers, and it's still costing them money to this day. So they probably do need to do something. I don't know what the best solution is. I don't personally agree that this is the best solution for that problem. That is sort of encroaching onto the game space a little bit too much, and my worry is that obviously this game is going to be a success, both with fans and critically, no matter whether they put this in or what they do with it. And just because it's a Diablo title and because of the Blizzard brand, and like you said, it's completely revolutionary, but the rest of the game industry emulates the success, and no one's more successful than Blizzard right now, really, in PC gaming. So this sort of sets the tone for what it's going to be like in the future of PC games. Are we going to just be able to pay an upfront fee and own the game and have full rights to it? Or
no, you're not.
No, I don't think we are, and that worries me, because I don't know what's going to happen with this title, but I know even less about what's going to happen beyond that.
Well, this isn't the first game that's put in a revenue-generating factor. A lot of games that are free to play online have a cash shop in them, where so in the listening to what's his name, the Cynical Brick guy, the two he referenced were League of Legends and Dungeons & Dragons Online, and both of those apparently have a cash shop. And honestly, I play League of Legends a lot, but I haven't played DDO, but I honestly prefer the Diablo method, because with a cash shop, the items in the cash shop, at least for League of Legends, which are entirely they made your character look different. They're called skins, and they're really, they have no effect on the gameplay, no stats. They just look cooler. But the only way you can get the skins is by paying real life money. And I prefer the Diablo method, where you can pay money in the auction house and get a cool item. But if you don't want to pay money, you still have the option of farming for that item by yourself, or trading for it, or you're saving up your gold and hoping one day it appears in the gold auction house, which I personally think that top items will be appearing in the gold auction house at some point or another. But, I mean, I could be wrong on that.
The only way I see that happening is if people think I can get enough gold for this, which I can then sell the gold for cash if I want, or maybe,
Sure.
or if what they're doing if they're selling an item for real money and then using that money to buy gold, versus selling an item for gold and then using that to buy real money, I mean, if the objective is to get gold, maybe you can get more gold for trading for gold, or you can get more gold for trading for money, which you can then convert to gold. And it's just going to be really interesting to see how the economy flows. And there's going to be people who make their entire game time just playing the auction house, buying stuff low and selling it high, and finding resources and exploits in the issues. I mean, that's going to be very interesting to follow that process.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Gold is going to be sellable, and everyone's going to have gold. And so I think that discounting the gold auction house is a little bit premature at this point, because some people may not want to take a risk. Maybe let's say the exchange rate for gold is 10,000 Diablo gold is $1, and you find this awesome legendary that you see going for $3. Are you going to take a risk posting that auction, or are you going to put that awesome legendary on the gold market for 30,000 gold, and then the much more stable, consistent gold market will get that money for you? I mean, like you said, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
People have suggested some sort of item tags or identification on items where it would say how you obtained it. So when you viewed your armory, or in game or via the browser, you could say self-found helmet, self-found belt, twinked from another character or shield, gold traded sword, real money traded boots, that kind of thing. And people think that would be very interesting to kind of see that. And for purists like Nico, you're a purist now, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Who don't want filthy lucre involved in their trades, you could try and optimize your gameplay, or make sure your friends are only using items that they found themselves. Or perhaps there's dueling leagues. You can only have 2 items on your character that you actually paid money for. That kind of thing is an equalizing factor.
Yeah, I can't see Blizzard themselves, most of all, actually implementing something like that, where it's going to attach a stigma to a player who's using something that they're trying to encourage more people to use.
Must you intrude reality into my cool concepts? So pretending that wasn't actually a factor.
Sure. I've thought about that as well. I guess it would do something for some people. I don't really take much offense if some person wants to pay real money and buy something. I'm not going to look down upon that person. That's just my take.
You're not? Isn't that the whole reason you're on this podcast?
I'll try not to. I'll try to contain
You don't think
myself.
it should be allowed, but you don't mind if someone does it? That seems contradictory.
Assuming when the game goes as planned. I'm not going to be that person, who goes into a game and just calls someone, oh, you bought all your stuff, and starts trolling someone. I do think it would be interesting if they didn't allow items to be relisted once they were listed, either on either auction house or specifically on the real money auction house, rather. That would certainly do a lot to control the flow of items and the deflation that we'll probably see in the economy. I don't know what the end ramifications would be, but I think they made it pretty clear that they want it to be as simple and straightforward as possible. So,
you probably agree with him on that, Wolfpaq, but you think it would be cool, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that when you look at that from a do the cons outweigh the pros or vice versa, you're going to see, okay, the cons, people are going to be singled out. It's going to be an opportunity to spark griefing and trolling. Does that outweigh the benefits of a dueling league can limit people? I mean, I don't even see that as much of a benefit. So no, I don't think that would be a good system to include.
Oh, you're no fun at all. Yeah, the other problem with it is this. As many of us, as me, are speculating, if only the top items are tradable for cash, I almost said gold again. It's a good thing we don't actually use gold for real money, because we have no way to discuss this.
Yes, it is.
But anyway, if the only way to get top items, selling them, is on the RMT auction house, then inevitably, if you have top items, you're going to have to use that system to trade for them. And it might be entirely self-found. You might find 5 wind forces and you sell those for gold, and you sell those for cash. And then you spend the cash on top items. Then obviously, this hypothetical non-existent item tag thing would say you paid money for this, but you have no other choice. There's no other way to get those items other than to play money, than to pay money. It would, there's no other way to do it. So I guess that would kind of negate the whole concept of that system, unless you were just total, purist, live off the land, only using self-found loot.
Yes, the real ascetics among us, I guess. Yeah, I would only see that as appeasing a small, and I have seen those threads too where people have kind of advocated for this kind of system, but I can only see that appeasing a very small group of people that would be opposed to the RMT system in general. And
okay, so any final thoughts, guys? Anything we missed that you wanted to get into?
No.
Don't think so. Pretty thorough.
We went 40 minutes longer last time, and we still didn't get to every topic. So,
wow.
By next week, will this be really good? It'll be perfect. Okay, well, maybe not. That's our real money auction house, and with any luck, this will not be crashed on my computer again.
Right.
Thanks, Wolfpaq and Nico, for your breaking your virginity on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
And that's what you said. And perhaps we will hear from you on a future episode on some other topic. Hopefully, the listeners will enjoy now that we've brought in complete lucidity and clarity to every issue relating to the auction house.
Yep.
No contesting
And you're
that.
saving up your Bobby Bucks already, right, Wolfpaq?
Yeah, I got some chinchillas running some power on the side.
Of course. And you've been listening to the Diablo Podcast. We are online at diablopodcast.com. Bye.
Moo.
Bye. Moo.
Moo.
I'm not gonna move.
Unicorn.
Moo.
Unicorn.